I need some traction.
No. We all know it's important to measure things.
You need some traction.
If you're anything like me, you maybe have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with it. It's fine, still important. We'll get there. But fortunately, our next speaker, we have Elena Verna, and she is Senior Vice President of Growth for Malwarebytes. She's here today to share with us some of her strategies for how to make KPIs work for you. Elena Verna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elena Verna, and today I want to talk to you about how to make your KPIs work for you. Before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and why this topic is near and dear to my heart. I actually started at SurveyMonkey 8 years ago, building their analytics team. So data has been front and center for me for my entire career. Now, what does data mean, and what is success of the data? Data is supposed to drive your strategy. Data supposed to help you prioritize. Now, how many times have you heard a phrase, oh, I think this number is this, or he's saying this number is that, I don't trust the data? How many of you have heard the phrase, I don't trust the data? Look around. There's a lot of people. And when you don't trust the data, you don't know how to prioritize your work and where to focus your business on optimization and growth. So I want to talk to you about how I think about building your dashboards and building your data dictionary that is actually evangelized across the entire company. It can help you be aligned. So this is from my experience. Hopefully, it is helpful to you. But let's start talking about defining key performance indicator. I think there's a lot of times people think revenue is a KPI. I've heard that many times. But the problem here is that in KPI, the main word is indicator. So you have to find a metric that indicates the outcome. The outcome being revenue. For all of us in non-profit organizations, revenue is what we strive to grow. But indicator is the metric that will affect that revenue. If you have your KPI as a revenue, it's too late. If you're seeing an impact on your revenue, that means you actually missed the underlying lever that is actually drove that revenue. So key performance indicator, never revenue. Please don't set it as revenue. Revenue is the final outcome that you should be able to derive from your KPIs. So let's talk about levers. So all of you probably have a forecast that you're hoping to achieve. In your forecast, you forecast on revenue and the year-over-year growth that you're hoping to get on that revenue. Now, you need to identify what levers you can pull to actually achieve that desired year-over-year growth. It might be product development, it might be feature development, it might be optimization in the funnel or a new release. However, knowing what levers you can pull to actually affect that year-over-year growth is of utmost importance for your focus and alignment in your organization. So let's talk about subscription business. SurveyMonkey, where I worked before, is a subscription business. Malwarebytes is a subscription business as well. So I'm going to talk to you how I think about the levers for the forecast for subscription businesses. But this process can be applied to different business models. So in subscription model, with the revenue being your outcome, you really have three main levers that you can pull in order to affect it, which is new paid subs, so new paid subscriptions, so inflow into your paid subscriber base. It's ARPU, or average revenue per user, of how much you're charging per each customer that is in your subscriber base. And then finally, churn or retention, or the outflow out of your paid subscriber base that you have. Based on three numbers, you can forecast your final outcome of what your revenue is going to be. And you can forecast on how much lift you expect to see in all of those three levers to actually get to the lift of the revenue that you're hoping to achieve. So those, I would say, then need to be divided into KPIs. So KPIs across the entire company, you need to set in a manner that is going to be digestible to people. Usually, human mind cannot remember more than 3 to 4 numbers or truly understand 3 to 4 numbers at a time, unless your whole job is to understand numbers. But you at that executive level at the company, or if you're running a company, you need to know 3 numbers that you can just talk to anybody about and have a common language with. So I like to break down KPIs in multiple levels. And today I want to talk to you about L1 and L2, or level 1 and level 2 KPIs that everybody should have understanding in their company and have a common language about. Now, let's talk about L1. Revenue levers, or the 3 levers that I've talked about, which is new paid subscriptions, ARPU, and churn, are L1 KPIs. Your exec team or your top leaders in the company should review them weekly. Why? That is how you assess of what is going to be the outcome on the revenue and on your forecast against plan. So what does that look weekly? You literally sit down in a room and you go over those 3 metrics and you see how they stack up against plan. So you look at actuals. Let's pretend this is for a month of May, and the black line here is actuals and the blue line here is your plan or your forecast that you've created, and you see how you stack up against that. In this case, you're ahead, great. If you're below, you need to start to understand what is actually going on and why is this lever to the forecast below my expectation of where I thought it's going to be. And this is where L2 really starts to come in. So L2 KPIs, those are team-specific KPIs that you give them a chance to actually control to get into the lever to the forecast. So team leads should be the ones responsible for them. And still, across the entire organization, there should not be more than 5 or so L2 level KPIs that will drive your revenue levers. So I'll share with you mine, the ones that I like to focus on, but these should be a definition for your company specifically. I call them ACER because it's easy to remember and it's very intuitive, and you have a definition for each one of them. Let's start with acquisition. So let's rewind back to new paid subscribers. How do you get new paid subscribers? Well, there's different tactics that you can do to get more new paid subscribers into your paid base. You can open up your acquisition funnel. You can spend more money in SEM. You can get more affiliate programs. You can increase your SEO or content marketing. That is an acquisition KPI that can probably affect new paid subscribers because you're going to get more people through the funnel. Or you can get more people to convert on your pricing pages. And that will also result in the L1 KPI of more new paid subscribers. But breaking it down to what team can actually control, an acquisition marketing team will most likely have control of, and saying this is your target, go after it because this is going to have the effect on the L1 key dashboard. That's what is going to become most important and empowers the team to be in control and understanding what is the final outcome and how they're contributing to the top line year-over-year growth. The next one is conversion. That's a C in ACER. That's pretty self-explanatory in terms of free to paid conversion. How do you monetize your traffic? What are the levers that you can pull in product or on your marketing site to monetize the traffic that is coming through your product? Engagement and retention are two go hand in hand together because in both engagement and retention, engagement will drive retention. So retention is more of a final outcome, but there's still retention KPIs that you can do separately. But let's talk about acquisition a little bit more. So what is acquisition KPI? You need to actually define it. You cannot just say acquisition, because it needs to be something that you track and that you agree that this is your main acquisition KPI. It can be visitors, it can be page views, it can be new accounts created, it can be downloads, it can be trial starts. Whatever it is for you, define it, because that becomes alignment across your organization that that is the acquisition KPI that you're driving that is meaningful to your business. Next one is conversion. I've mentioned this already, so pricing to checkout to order conversion rate. How do I drive more people into pricing funnel and into conversion funnel? How do I release more features that are paid features that will drive more monetization of my product? But the final outcome of it is new subscription orders, it's purchases, it's units, it's packages, purchases, it's cart value. So what constitutes monetization for you? And that is going to be your conversion KPI. And you can give different KPIs to different teams depending on what they can actually affect. The one big asterisk with conversion KPI is that you can drive for volume or value. If you drive for volume, you may get a ton of new orders. But if you don't control for value, their ARPU is going to be very low. Versus if you overdrive for value and you charge a lot for your product, then you really sacrifice the volume. So you have to find a happy medium. It's going to be different for every single business, but when you think about conversion, think about ARPU or the value versus volume and what the trade-offs that you're willing to make. Do you care about having more paid users, or do you care about having less users that are paying more to you? That's an answer that you need to be clear for your business and where the break-even point for you stands. And you can forecast all of that in terms of revenue and see how that actually plays out. Now let's talk about engagement. Engagement is probably one of the most important KPIs, but it frequently gets overlooked. A lot of times you look at the active users, daily active users, monthly active users, and you say that's your engagement metric. However, that's more of, again, outcome, and that doesn't actually mean how many people are engaging with your product if they're just visiting your site or visiting your product. But what is the aha moment of your product? That's a very difficult one to agree on a lot of times in organization, because where it's actually the final point and where you get the value, which is the biggest driver to monetization, will come in. So I'll give you an example. At SurveyMonkey, aha moment is when I send out survey to all of you and you start responding to me and I see those responses and I see the data that I can make decisions on. That's my aha moment. At Malwarebytes, which is a cybersecurity company, the moment you download our product on your machine and you clean it and you see how much junk we find on your machine and we remediate it, that's the aha moment. We've proven the value to you. And that is the engagement metric that will really be at the bottom and the cause of driver of everything, of conversion, and monetization, and of retention. And how do you have people repeat it? How do you get repeatable aha moment and have people do it over and over and over again? Because if they have it once, you'll monetize them, sure. But if you don't have it happen again, you will never retain them, which is where retention comes in. Now, retention can be engagement, repeat. So you're repeating aha moment over and over again, or retention can be paid retention, where you look at the subscription business, it's first-term churn rate, it's payment failure, it's auto-renewal cancellation. And why is retention important? Because if you repurchase within X month, or if you renew your subscription and you successfully pay for it, it lifts your LTV. LTV is a beautiful thing to have as high as you possibly can. Because why? You can actually spend more money at the top of the funnel if your LTV is bigger. So you can feed it into your acquisition funnel. And if you don't have a retention, then you have a leaky bucket situation. You can pour as much of traffic and conversions through the top, but if you cannot retain them through the bottom, then it doesn't make sense. And you're just going to have to spend so much effort on top as opposed to diversifying your effort and maintaining it at the bottom. And you achieve all of it through testing cycle. So those KPIs on ACER that you define, you give it to your teams and you say, this is your North Star, now go and test against it. Because that's growth mentality. That's the iteration and learning that you have to drive from the start in your company. Because you start by observing a behavior, you have a KPI that you want to achieve, that you want to get to in that experience, you form a hypothesis, you do a test, and then you learn. Now, it's important to note that it's important right from the start, accept failures, because failures equal learning. So make sure that you set a metric of success for your testing of at least 30 to 50% failed experiments. Why? That might sound too negative. However, if you don't fail, you don't learn. If you always observe and hypothesize correct behavior that drives in the lift and that drives in the success of the test, that means you actually know exactly what's customer doing, or you're not trying experiments too far outside of the norm to actually understand what if we do this. So make sure to embrace failure, make sure to embrace learning, and make sure to iterate not only on these KPIs in terms of how to move them, but on KPIs themselves, because you probably should look at your business every 6 months and see if those KPIs are still right. And I would say that every single year, at least one of the KPIs everywhere that I work has been changing, and we've been flipping it to something else as we iterate, as our product grows, and as our product evolves. Thank you very much. Hopefully it was helpful.
I need some traction. You need some traction. Let's get some traction.